Hello. And the eternal struggle, peace is but a dream for us. I had some secret hopes that at least for a couple of weeks of summer, things would settle down a bit, both in the world and in Russia. But unfortunately, those hopes were not meant to come true. So, what happened? A few things have happened since my last commentary. First of all, our beloved Donald Fredovich has unleashed another round of tariffs. Though, as soon as he announced them, literally just a few hours later, he postponed them until the 1st of August. And here's what can be said. They didn't really change anything fundamentally, because compared to the previous ones, they're pretty much the same. Some are 2% higher, some are 2% lower. But that's not the point. The point is that this completely destroys the entire system of global trade, because now everything is absolutely unpredictable. It does nothing but cause wild irritation among the participants. So I see all of this as a kind of tool for dismantling the Bretton Woods system, which simply cannot exist without stable and transparent global trade. I've already mentioned that for Trump, the issue of the Bretton Woods system is already settled, and for that reason, he doesn't care about it. But since no one has said this outright yet, and in reality, the logic that a financial collapse is already possible this summer, even before the end, just before the beginning of autumn, hasn't really sunk in for people. Although I am more and more convinced that Trump himself is acting based on the logic that this is exactly what will happen. And gradually, this logic is capturing more and more world leaders. The question, though, is what kind of leaders they really are, in the sense that they don't really have the right to act independently, but are supposed to do as they're told. Nevertheless, overall, the picture is more or less clear. The second significant piece of news that has emerged is the rather unsettling combination of, yes, the sudden and inexplicable deaths of a whole bunch of prominent people, spanning from our own country all the way to France, and the equally alarming disappearance of the infamous, highly controversial, Epstein's comprehensive list of alleged pedophiles. This is an extremely crucial and truly significant point, but not at all in the manner or the precise location that everyone truly thinks. The thing is, well, of course, yes, a whole bunch of people will now start explaining that both the French deputy and the former Minister Starvoit and some other folks, they didn't actually commit suicide, but were killed, just like Epstein himself. After all, footage has surfaced, right? Recordings of people entering his cell. Everything would be fine, except that a whole minute was cut out. And so on and so forth. So, in general, it's pretty clear that, yeah, conspiracy theories about this will spread very, very actively. But for me, I think the most important thing is something else. We kept talking and talking, and at the Street of Truth Club we talked, and I talked about how the key element of this crisis is the destruction of the system that legitimizes property. And now, quite unexpectedly, a rather large number of people are discovering that what they considered theirs is no longer theirs. I want to draw attention to the leak that appeared online about how supposedly Starvoid made a deal to return everything, but the person through whom he actually managed his, honestly, I don't even know what term to use. Well, let's put it this way, honestly stolen money. Honestly, in the sense that it was done according to the rules established back in the 90s. But, well, of course, not in accordance with the law. He suddenly ran off and didn't return the money. And right away, I vividly remember this truly wonderful and memorable phrase, this particular scene from the critically acclaimed movie Don't Be Afraid, I'm With You, when, a rather imposing criminal in an Azerbaijani prison dramatically comes up to the main character and quite emphatically says, "This isn't your tooth, and it's certainly not my tooth either. It's unequivocally theirs, belonging to them entirely." So, the whole point is that a lot of people who think they have capital, who think they have assets and that these assets will protect them, don't realize that they actually have nothing, that these aren't their assets. This isn't their money. They're managed by other people. They belong to other people. And their opinions, the influence they have over the fate of these assets, nobody cares about. At the same time, there are other people who were promised something. Now imagine these ministers, deputies, and all the rest who have found themselves in a completely ridiculous situation. They're sitting on financial flows, they have obligations, and so on. But in reality, it suddenly turns out that, formally, they have nothing to do with those financial flows they supposedly control. And as soon as they try to change anything, they get slapped on the wrist. In other words, they can't even leave because there's nowhere to go. That's the scariest thing in this whole story. The smartest ones realize they need to get out fast to shake off, say, 99% of what they've honestly stolen, and maybe only that 1%, or even 0.1% that was hidden from everyone, absolutely everyone, might be possible to keep. Like a small apartment, yeah, a little house. That's it. Everything else, not a chance. And, well, basically, those people who want to survive in the new model, they need to figure out and understand how the system of ownership will be set up in the new model, who will be in charge of it, and why they would have at least some connection to it. Unfortunately, all those sad events that are happening, they're, actually connected to the fact that people don't really understand. Like that French deputy who decided to investigate corruption around Macron. He didn't realize, he didn't understand, that he would be killed. Not because anyone really cares how much Macron stole, but because it's fundamentally important for everyone to understand that it wasn't Macron who was stealing. That Macron is just an executor within the framework of some completely different groups and different schemes. And this secret, I already talked about it in my book Stairway to Heaven. The most important thing is the elite groups and, accordingly, the power factions they control. And then it suddenly turns out that the people we thought were the movers and shakers of this world, because they buy their mistresses Ferraris, Range Rovers, and, accordingly, diamonds the size of a quail egg, turn out to be minor players. Truly minor, and specifically minor, in terms of their inner substance, so to speak. All they think about is how to steal a little money here and there, and that's it. And that's why, as soon as something serious comes up, bam, they start getting summoned somewhere. And they're told, go on, tell us everything. They don't even realize what they're not supposed to talk about. I've already mentioned this in the example with the French deputy. So, here's the thing. I think there will be more and more stories like this, precisely because, as it happens, the overwhelming majority of PEO, people at this level, department heads, deputy ministers, some ministers, upper-level deputies, governors, vice governors, while acting as placeholders and representing the interests of certain groups. They don't understand that it's not just about not revealing where the money went or how much they stole, but that you absolutely cannot reveal how these power groups are actually structured. They don't understand this, and it's impossible to explain it to them because in their minds, a power group is just an abstraction. Like, sure, Petya appointed me to this position, or, my company appointed me. And he doesn't realize that if he starts talking, it will turn out that the company was also an operator of these funds, and the money actually went somewhere completely different. So, here's the picture. The model in which our country coexisted for 25 years, the one that was created in the 90s, has come to an end. It can't function anymore. And the people who were shaped by that model and continue to live by it, they have no future. Even those among them who manage to get out alive, or even those who have already managed to escape, well, at best they'll lose everything, and at worst, they'll lose everything in the process of being squeezed out extremely harshly. A completely similar situation will happen in Western Europe and in the United States of America. In fact, we're already seeing this to some extent. Now all of this will become visible. By the way, the whole story with Epstein's list is part of this too. The problem isn't the Epstein list itself. Well, you could say that everyone was on it, because the goal was to get all the public representatives of the elite to go through Epstein's island, even if they didn't yet know what was going on there. They flew in, had some tea, and flew out. That doesn't matter. What matters is that they were there. The real issue is something else. You can't talk about who needed this and what issues were being resolved through it out loud. That's what's off limits. Is that clear to everyone? It was all the fault of the scoundrel Epstein, who committed suicide. Period. Absent-mindedly, he just stopped breathing. So, in short, the significant events that have literally taken place in the last 2 days mean only one absolutely crucial thing. The established model of elite interaction that has been meticulously built in the world over the last, 50 years globally, and 35 years here in this specific region is completely finished, because there is no economic foundation whatsoever under it, no real underlying foundation. The financial flows have dried up so much that there isn't even enough to maintain the infrastructure, let alone to keep up the flashy lifestyles of those involved in it. And for this reason, all sorts of unexpected things are starting to happen. You need to be prepared for them, but by no means should you turn this into a tragedy or anything else of the sort. Oh, and one last thing. Since, a lot of people used to envy them, as well as their friends, girlfriends, and so on, it's important to warn everyone that in the new world, the system will be set up differently. Maybe there will still be some elements like that, but there'll be new elements. And most importantly, under no circumstances should you try to carry over your accumulated old wealth when transitioning from the old system to the new one, because the chances of success are extremely low, while the potential costs could be extremely high. These, if you will, are my recommendations. And as for discussing all these lovely topics, please take it to the private Telegram channel chat. There are some things I won't even discuss there, but still, some things do get discussed. Thank you. Thank you for your attention.